Hello everybody, how you doing? It's Brad, just to say hi to you. And what we're going to be talking about today is the nature of keystone jacks, how to do punch downs in rack enclosures, as you can see behind me over here, or in patch panel sections we're using keystones. And we'll talk about those in regards to and or involving the keystone jack, the cabling, the punching it down, getting all those things doing and doing proper testing. So this is the planned work. As you can see, there's one keystone jack right here that is just temporarily mounted into my permanent rack mount set. And I have the older style punch down temporarily strapped in down here, running connections down to the infrastructure that which I have for the house. So with that, basically what we're doing here is we're going to just show you real quickly a quick breakdown about working with those and how they work. So with this process that we're going to do here is we're going to be basically taking CAT5, CAT6, CAT7 wiring here, which is basically a style of a networking cable. And we're going to show you how you can punch down, prepare for your keystone mounts, for your rack mounts, and so on and so on. This will allow you to kind of get a grasp of how easy it really is to do this. Okay, now I'm also going to do something new. Today I'm going to introduce my new tripod for my camera system here to allow me to be hands-free in doing this work. This is something new for me. I usually just do it with a one-hand wonder and hold the camera in my hand while I am doing the work that I need to do. But today this is going to be able to give me some abilities to have my hands free and clear so we can do the next steps. Okay, so in this process we have basically set ourselves up what are going to be some cutting cables and samples here, as you can see. We have a straight cable, which is clean and clear, ready to be worked with. And of course, we'll have a sample of what is a keystone jack, and this is a keystone jack, as you can see, and it's how it functions. And this is, of course, a RJ45 Cat5, Cat5e, Cat5.6, Cat7 kind of connectivity kind of model. Now, this is just a closed loop for training purposes, but this kind of gives you an idea what we're looking at. Now, if you look closely here, you'll see that in the areas here, the wire punch downs, a zip tie, and the color codings, which are on the sides, are what are important for you to be able to do. Now, along with that, we also have to have in our ability is a tester. And this is called a loopback tester for a fluke analyzer, and this is a patch panel style cable which will allow us to plug into the keystone jack as such and allow you to pass a circuit through into your tester. And this is a tester right here, and when you enable that and you plug it in, it will tell you by giving you an 1 through 8 display that the wires are good, the contact is good, and depending on the quality of your fluke tester or other versions of testers, you will have in your capacity the ability to do distance and a few other things if you want. But you don't really need that so much as long as you have what is called a clean punch down, a clean interface. And this is another version of a loopback which can go directly into the keystone jack and give you a feedback, opposed to using a more established standard viable tester. Now, the other key thing that you need here is you have to have a punch down tool, and a punch down tool is very unique. The punch down tool is basically, as you can see here, an ability to trigger or push down in using this bit here. And this bit, there are two versions. There's one that does not cut, and there's one that does cut. And there's a little edge here with a little blade on it, and what it does is it frees off the wire from the keystone jack so that the unit can be basically punched and secured. And what does that unit really look like? Well, let's go ahead and show you. So this is a keystone jack right here. It comes with three things. It comes with a zip tie, a very small one. It comes with caps. These are the caps. And those caps will go down onto the actual points of a punch down. So here, as you can see, you have a color coding setup for either B, punch down code, or A, punch down code. In other words, there are two standards of wire punch downs, and the whole goal of it is use one standard so that your wires are straight through on both ends. So you either choose A or you choose B. I use B because it makes it easier to basically work with the CAT5 when you look at the actual unit itself, and orange is always there on the one side. So personally, I like to use B. So with that being said, the next thing you have to do is you have to take your CAT5, 6, or 7 twisted pair wiring, and you have to cut the ends off of these right here. And this is what it would look like when you do that. Now, as you noticed, these are twisted. And the reason why they're twisted is that helps them maintain the ability of their field cohesion, and the leakage of the electrons coming from the wiring is not so bad. Now you're going to have these little side strings here, so you'll have your trusty tool to basically cut them free and clear. And by doing that, in this case I can just pull the string out, but have a good pair of metal scissors. That way you can trim and bring off the shielding to get to the wiring itself. Now the next part of this is we're going to have two keystone jacks, and if you look at the keystone jack, it has a latch on one side, and if you flip it over, it has a pressure relievable snap-in. That's what makes it a keystone, because it snaps into a port. Now with that being the case, we're going to need two of these. So I have a black one here, which I'll pour out its parts. As you can see, it's exactly the same. That's the thing. To be keystone, you have to fit, and the measurements have to always be consistent. So with that being the case, I'm going to show you how to do a punch down. I won't do the second part of the punch down because it's just a repeat, but basically in a nutshell, you go here and you untwist these wires. Okay? And in this case, if you look at the color coding, it says white, orange, orange first. So you go ahead and set up your white, orange, and orange first, and then you look again and it says blue, white, blue. So then you take your blue, white next, and you will unwind that as well, leaving your white to the side that matches the punch down, and right there, these little grooves are your punch downs. So what I can do now is I place the in this case the CAT cable's base. That's where the shielding comes just inside the actual inside corridor there, and then I will place my my orange, white in the first slot, and then I place my second one in the second slot, and then with my punch down tool I will just gently push them down into place, and you have to securely do it because that's a tricky part. And if you look now, you will see that the two functional wires are now grooved. They haven't been cut yet, but they've been grooved. Now do that again for the blue one. Make sure that you don't double slot one of those slots. And again, I'll give it a firm foundation because it does take a little bit of pressure. Okay, so there you go. The four wires are sleeved, they're tight, and they've been slightly cut to make contact. That's how it closes the circuit. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other side too. And over here it says brown, white, brown, green, white, green. So without going into too much ado, I will go ahead and get that going. And as you can see, it's really, once you get your groove started, it's not hard. And you can actually use your nail, your thumbnail, to kind of begin your punch down. And that will allow you to kind of get a nice, snug, capable fit. And then here we are again, and just a little bit of pressure in there to start with. And you'll see that the green in this case are actually in place. And again, I'm going to go ahead and let's get the brown in there as well. And I'll go ahead and secure that. Now, one key detail about punch downs, these tools, and you're going to hear it soon, and you'll know why we now call it a punch down. that when you do a punch down, you will basically be triggering an interlocking spring, which you'll hear it go pop. When it does, that's going to tell you that I'm good, and I've probably already cut the cable up, but usually I do it twice just to make sure. But before I do that, you really need to go ahead and put in your zip tie, and the zip tie will basically lock the cable into place. And this is important. A lot of people skip this step and they don't figure out why does their wiring get torn out later. That's because it's not secure. Now if you look at it, it is now. Now that wire is not going to give up, and it's going to be reinforced by the zip tie that you pulled. Now take your wire cutter and just gently pull on the line before you cut it. And that's going to make it really nice and super tight, and that's what you want. So now we're ready to do the punch down. Now you're going to understand why we call it a punch. As you can hear, it makes a lot of noise, but it's good. And it cuts these little wires off when it does it. See? So they fall off nice and clean, like that, and the wires are no longer there, opposed to the other side, which they're still present. So you do it again. Make sure your blade is on the right side. Now when you've done that, and you just gently twist the little wire heads, they'll fall right off. If they don't completely come off, then just give it another punch. You can lean into the outside to complete that punch. Now that's something that does happen. If you lean to the center of the punch, you may not cut that wire. But if you lean slightly to the outside of the punch, you will. And it will be a clean punch down. Now stand by here for a second while I go ahead and do the other half real fast, and then we'll resume. Okay, so now I put on the black one, and I've got the green one, the one you watch me make. And as you can see here, when you put these in to cap them, these are going across to protect the tops from oxidization, dust buildup, and so on. And this one has the zip tie on it, which is one version standard out there. And on this one, it doesn't have a zip tie, but what it has is what's called an affirmed lid. And as you can see, it has a corridor for the hose, for the outer housing. So you lock it in place, and we have ourselves a keystone to keystone jack setup. Now this would be in one patch panel in one location in your house, and this would be in another. So at that point stage, we can take our test cable, we can put it in one of these guys, and I'm going to reach over here and grab another network cable and put it in the other one. And we'll set this one into play, and then we're going to give ourselves a little bit of configuration here for our unit. Now, one little tidbit or tip: these units are notorious for eating up batteries. They just drain them. They do it on purpose. I don't know why. There isn't any reason for them. They're static devices, but for some stupid reason, the industry's got them burning up these batteries. So the best thing to do is when you're not using them, take the batteries out, and they last so much longer. But we're going to put this one in. And when the unit comes up, as I turn it on here, you'll see the displays. And right now it's in cable mode. So I will place this connector into here, and then my other network cable into here. And you're going to see it say, hey, I'm either good or I'm not good. And in this case, this is giving me an error call on a couple of wires. So give me a second here. Okay, now that we've got the new tester set in place, you can see here it shows each wiring matching each wiring. And that's what you want. You want wire 1 to go to wire 1, and you want, go ahead and pop these off. You want these to match up exactly. And also, as a tip, try not to use one standard of a keystone manufacturer versus another one. I just had this one, and I thought it'd be good to show you the differences between some of them and how they work. I usually traditionally like to use the zip tie version, and that's all I use, but I had this as a spare for like telecom and phone services. This works pretty good too. But as you can see, that's how you're going to be able to create by punching down and using keystone jacks. And remember, keystone jacks are a lot more than just CAT5 or CAT6 or CAT7. They can also be in C headers. They can be crossovers. They can do quite a bit, actually, including coaxial RJ58, and that gives you the ability to be flexible on your patch panel as you're going forward. So with that being the case, this is what I'm using for my standard for staging and preparing how I want to do some of my bandwidth within the new data center model that I'm doing. And the data center model is about 1/4 along. It takes time because we have to sit down and we have to document what we want to do. Don't do this on the fly, because you're going to go back and you're going to discover, oh wow, I messed up. It's better to find out those mistakes in your paperwork up than to find them after you spent money or time or both and discover, oh crap, I've got to start over and go this way instead of that way, and to make the other thing. The other really strong recommendation I give to all of you, especially to the cable Nazis of the world, nothing wrong with that. I know it's nice to see a nice, pretty, really nice looking sort of cable structures and patch panels, and it all flows like it was designed as a piece of art. But the reality is, when you're working in your data center, you need to be able to bring in new things and adjust, and to be able to plug in and plug out. And when you're, when you've got a couple of spare wires coming in and going out, and it's not pretty and it's not going through the right cable management because it's the wrong length and so on, or it's not the right color, that's okay, because you're wanting to learn how to do things, not necessarily perfect a cable management strategy. I know very many men and women out there who are extremely good at running cable, and that's what you're doing. You're just running cable. But when it comes to doing your own table, your own data center kind of stuff, design it so it's flexible for your demands and gives you future ability to modify and change things around. Well, look, I apologize for the long video, but the good news is I wanted you guys to be able to get this into clarity and understand, how really easy it is to build your own patch panels. It's not difficult. A lot of people try to make it look difficult, but it's not. So this is Brad signing off. Enjoy, God bless, and have a great week.